How's it going, internet? I'm back to look at some AI generated music and create music out of it. As I'm doing for this series, where I'm focusing on my PhD project, where I am creating music with AI and using it to create new music or new art or whatever it is. So kind of using the AI as a collaborator or co-creator. If you want to learn more about my proposal and just more about my thoughts on the topic and the topic at large, I would head over to my Substack. I'll link to it in the description of this video. And you can read my writing, my proposal. It's kind of going to be the hub of all of the written elements moving forward. These videos are kind of like my video log, and that Substack is kind of like a summary of these videos and is my written log or blog, I guess. Bit more academic than a blog, but yeah, if you're interested, head over there and check that out. But today we're in Ableton and we're going to make some music. And I've got these two audio files here. They're both mono because the model I used to create them was a mono model, or at least it didn't say explicitly that it was a mono model, but that's all of the files that came out of it were mono. This one's a stereo, came from a different model. Let's just have a listen to them in isolation. So this is kind of like, I think I put in like lo-fi hip hop with an electric piano. And this is what I got. And you can see it's clipping, which is fun. Just going to put a Pro L2 on the output so we're not clipping anymore. So yeah, that's now looping. What we're going to do before we do anything else is get this in time with my session, because it's a little bit off grid and I want it to be on grid. And the way we're going to do that is just go over to our timeline and yeah, let's just bring it into line. The way we do that is using the grid and our BPM. So, oh, that's not what I wanted to do. So what we're going to do, apologies for this, just trying to get the right view, is we want to drag our file till it lines up with the grid. So not like that. No, that's not how we want to do it. What we're going to do is unloop it, unwarp it, and now we are going to use the BPM. Sorry, I just completely forgot how to do this. So now we can bring it in line. So that's 100 BPM, basically. Let's just, no, I think that's about 100. And we can adjust it with some warping as we need it. Let's just get our metronome in. No, because we're not on the downbeat, so. So I reckon that's our first downbeat. Let's just assume that it is and move this out the way. Put this over here, and so where's our second beat? So we want that downbeat to be over here. So let's, there, that should do it. It's a little bit off. Yeah, it's going out. All right. probably better. Maybe it's 90 BPM. That sort of makes more sense. I think this is good. Yeah, we're in time now. That's good. And what we can do here is just drag this out, and we can see that this is a very interesting thing about AI, which I don't know. I see this repeated a lot. It's like where it starts the creation, where it starts the generative music is just random. It's never on the downbeat. It's just at some random point in a like fictional song. I just think that's really strange. I'm not really sure why that is, but it doesn't really matter because we're just going to loop these elements anyway. So we've got, what is that, 4 bars there, another 4 bars here. And how does this last part sound? We can just get rid of that, I think, and just use these two. What might be nice now is to warp them at 90 and to loop them just so we can work with them. And actually, what I might do is consolidate them. But as you can see, this downbeat is slightly off, right? So what I'm going to do is just warp it a little bit. Maybe like that. Yeah, that's sort of on a cross point. And I think that's good. So now, if I do this, I'm just going to consolidate it. I'll loop it again. And we should have a good loop. Let's just cut this and put it in here. Yeah. Let's get the other one in as well. So we've got some variety. With this one, we're going to do the same thing where we're just going to move this beat over so it's right on the, see, it's like basically right on the cross section or the crossing of the waveform. The reason why you'd want that, in case anybody's wondering, is because if it's not right on it, you end up with clicks and pops and stuff. It's just some audio science shit, really. And let's look at the end here, because I have a feeling we've got a little bit. Yeah, so what we're going to do here is the same thing. Just go down here. And let's just get this kind of into line. That's probably good. It's close enough. Also, it doesn't really matter that much with the whole cross section of the waveform or the crossing point, because Ableton sort of crossfades that out anyway. But let's just consolidate that, loop it, cut it out of here and put it back in here and make it a slightly different color so we know what we're working with. This one's got more like fills in it. So I actually kind of prefer this one as like a beat. And so what I think we're going to do is do different things with both of these loops. Like this one, I'm going to keep as our kind of main loop that we're going to build from. And the other one, I'm going to chop up. So let's get a MIDI track and let's get a drum rack in here. And let's drag this. No, sorry. What? Instead of a drum rack, I actually want a simpler. We'll get to the drum rack. Now we've got the simpler. Let's drag this in and let's go to our slice mode. And then let's just slice this to a drum rack. Yeah, cool. Now we've got what we want. We can't hear it because we're not soloed. So that's cool. We can use that. Let's just move that up there, move this down here. We'll use the drum rack a bit more in a second. For the time being, I want to evolve this loop a little bit, make it sound a bit better. What I'm going to do before that is just lower the volume a bit, because it is right on that edge and we're going to want to process it, and I don't want it to be at like full volume before I process it. So now what we're going to do is put some compression on it. Just going to do a little bit of buster here. Why has this frozen? There we go. We're going to do some parallel processing on this. So what I'm going to do is get a return track. You can do this in a variety of ways. I often like to use return tracks. Although the issue with using return tracks is there's a limited number of them, so you run out of them eventually. But we could just do it. In fact, let's not use our return tracks for that exact reason, because we might need those tracks later. So instead, let's just duplicate this track. I'm going to get rid of these. Actually, I'm going to duplicate it again, and I'm going to put that over there, and this is going to be in a group of like materials. I often do this in my sessions. There's a bunch of like, I guess, digital waste that I accumulate through a session, and I like to just chuck it over here in like a group so that like that's muted so that it doesn't run or doesn't do anything, and it's out of my way, but I haven't lost the stuff that's in there if I need to return to it later. I'm just gonna do this, call this one para, and I'll just solo it for a sec. And what we're gonna do is we're going to compress the absolute shit out of it. And we're going to do that with Devil Lock. Also get some crunch in there. You should put it on the fast. Now with Devil Lock, I usually only use it really subtly, but when parallel compressing, I just use it full bore, because that's the whole point of parallel compression, as we'll get to in a second. I often like to use a bit of a layering of compression. So what I might also use is this this fetish here just ahead of it, because we've still got that buster on there, but let's give it a little bit more. Let's just get rid of the Devil Lock for a second. We're also going to do a bit of EQing. In fact, let's put that ahead of this. Let's just cut out some of the subs. And I might just do that as well. Now, what I'm doing here is just removing a few resonant peaks, which aren't necessarily a problem in terms of the mix, but because I'm going to be compressing it so heavily, I kind of want to tame them a little bit ahead of time. And in fact, I might even do a bit of this. Yep. And let's bring our Devil Lock back in. Maybe some less crunch, actually. Now, I'm not so sure about that crunch, but let's bring in this EQ. Maybe this time we won't use Devil Lock because we're already compressing the shit out of it anyway, and I really don't like how the sort of low mids are conflicting with like that distortion, or they're accentuating the distorted elements in a way I don't really like. That's pretty cool already. We're actually going to get a little bit more crazy with this, though, because I'm going to do a third parallel track. We'll get to that in a second. Just want to crush this one a bit more. Let's just bring in the Old Faithful. So we're clipping over here. So what we're going to do is do our input volume lower. Maybe our output a bit as well. All right, so if I highlight all of this, it's much boomier. It sounds quite different, but sort of the whole point of this is to, I'm also just going to add a little bit of erosion, white noise, so we get a bit of grit, really cuts through the mix. I use erosion a lot for exactly this purpose. It's very subtle, but you can hear it. It makes a big difference in the mix. Once it's in the mix, you don't even hear the crunchiness of it, but the stuff comes through, like the mix, the audio comes through better. And I'm just gonna duplicate this as well. And let's go to this one. And with this one, we're gonna do some serious EQing. And I'll show you why. So I'm just gonna go to mid. Let's go over here and do 36. And let's go here, do sides. You'll understand why I'm doing this in a sec. Maybe let's get another mid in here. Okay, so we've got that going, but what we're going to do ahead of that is we're going to add a micro shift. Put it about there. Maybe tighten up the delay a little bit. And now what we're doing with the Pro Q3 is dramatically changing the stereo field. Like the micro shift already does that, as you can hear. And this is a mono file, remember? So this gives it stereo width. And then add the EQ. We cut out a lot of that low end, but we also really like demolish the mid frequencies, or the mid, and we accentuate the sides. And then I'm gonna add a wider from Polyverse, just to get a little bit more. And I'm also going to add max backs. And just on the mid side, so this will be the mids, I think. Link off. And what we're also going to do is add some reverb to this. So I'll get some Pro R. I'll just pick a preset, I think. And finally, I might just compress it a little bit as well. Just a little bit. Now, let's turn that down. Let's turn this down. Let's go back to our original. And let's bring in these elements. So let's bring in the first heavily compressed beat. Oh, it would help if we actually solo them. So if I unsolo it, like it's subtle, but I think it makes a difference. I think it'll also help if I just bring in a little bit of taming here. Because the bass is a little bit booming. It's possible I overdid that. Let's try. Yeah, I don't think we need that. All right, let's bring in the stereo width. Oh yeah. Huge difference. So, I'm gonna group these. And just for, I guess, comparison's sake, let's take these effects off this one. Let's play it, and let's go between the two so we can do a bit of A/B comparison. So this is our modified beat. That's our original beat. Pretty dry. Back to our modified beat. Just gives it some more life, you know? And with a lot of these AI, especially the sort of more lo-fi ones, because the one that made this model, the model that made this sound was not very polished, I guess. And I like that about it, but I want to bring it into a bit of a high fidelity space. Like, keep the lo-fi vibes, but bring it into a high fidelity environment, so to speak. And I think that that's what's happening here. So let's just delete that. I just noticed as well we're sort of clipping a little bit. Just going to turn my own volume up. So it's maybe a bit too much too much volume. So I've got this other element here. Let's just move on to that for the time being. So it's this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this start point and I'm going to use that as like a bed that sort of plays under everything. You might notice, of course, that the beat kind of has a bed, so I need to tune them together. So what I might do to just sort of get me there, I guess, is I could probably just use one of Ableton's instruments. Let's just go with this. Find the scale, which I believe I just did. And the reason I'm doing that is just to give myself an easy reference point. Let's just quantize these. I'm not going to like keep this sound in it, but it'll help me get the other one in tune without getting a bit confused, hearing too many frequencies. That might do it. Let's try that anyway. What I might do is bring this into our timeline, and this way I can do some simple audio surgery. So in Ableton, it just makes more sense to do this kind of stuff in this view, in the arrange view, rather than the clip launch view, the session view is what it's called. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to consolidate this really quick, and I'm going to drag this out so it's 4 bars. Let's just listen to that. We're on the beats. I might put it on complex. What I'm also going to do is create a new track, and I'll put it on resampling. I'm just going to loop this, and I'm going to get it out of here and put it back in here. And I'm going to add a reverb to this. So I have a lot of reverbs that I really like. The one that I usually reach for these kinds of like really deep ambiences is Eventide's Black Hole. Picked this up on sale one time. It's kind of made me want to get all of the Eventide plugins, which are based on pedals. I've always wanted the pedals as well, just to play guitar through, really. But let's hear it. And let's put the mix all the way up and put the feedback really high. Beautiful. And now we're just looping. So we kind of got like a frozen soundscape. And I'm going to use this track here to resample it. So I'm just going to record it. And this way we're going to get like quite like a longer loop, and it will be more consistent, but it will still retain the same quality. But I might also layer it with the original, so we get kind of like two different atmospheric beds kind of like mingling together. Maybe I'll get about 16 bars. This bed, it's probably enough. There's still going to be maybe a bit of weirdness in the how it loops. Let's just try that. Oh, I did 17 bars, but that's all right. Let's do 16, and let's try it. Let's just skip ahead. Yeah, I don't love that. I don't love how it clicks there. Perhaps there's something we can do about that. I mean, the obvious thing we can do is we can just record way more of it. Or I can just have a track. This is obviously probably the better way to do this, really. Let's just, no, that's not what I wanted. Let's just duplicate this track. So we've always got one with a black hole on it. I'm just going to also duplicate this, bring it over here, get rid of that, and get rid of this, and it can just go in my materials folder. I can get rid of these. Actually, no, I want to keep one of them for something later. I can get rid of this one. And actually, let's just delete that altogether. We don't need to resample that at this time. We can sort that out later. But this one, let's get rid of the black hole on this one. And let's put an EQ on it for a start. Just get rid of some of that low end and chuck some erosion on it. That's cool. The other thing I'm going to do is put one of my favorite plugins on it. It's called Stata. It's a tape emulation plugin. I'm going to turn the scrape down a bit, and the flutter down a bit, and the wow down a bit. Not too much. And the speed of it all down a bit. So on a sound like this, this data is not as obvious because the sound is already a bit lo-fi. But if I put it on this one over here, you'll hear the difference. It's just a cool plugin. I know there are lots of tape plugins. Like I have other ones as well. For example, I have this one, where is it? Neold Warble. I just don't like it as much. I just don't think it's as good. Like, it's not bad. Let's just demonstrate it. It just, I don't know, just lacks something. It's just not as good. I never reach for it compared to Stator, which is just way better. In fact, I've got a lot of these Plugin Alliance plugins, and I don't use them ever. Some of them are alright, but I definitely use Shadow Hill Compressor a lot. I also realized that Plugin Alliance isn't really necessarily the developer of these plugins, but I guess by association I just lump them all together. Anyway, let's go back to our sound. So I've got a pretty crunchy kind of sound now. I think what I want is to add a little bit more to that. Perhaps with a little bit of Devil Lock. Like, that's too much, but bring it down to nothing and then bring it in slowly. Find a good spot, that's probably enough. Devil Lock usually adds in some low end because the way it compresses everything. So I usually like to have an EQ after as well. And just do something like that. Maybe I'll put this here as well, and just a little bit of dynamic EQ. It's probably fine. And let's pair it with our reverb version. So the reverb version also needs some EQ. In fact, let's do this. Let's do the same thing. Just chill that a little bit. But also, I think it needs some width. So the reverb is already giving it some width. But I want to use wider to give it a little bit more. Probably about there. We can also do some of that with Pro Q. I do something like this, and then do sides. Might be good as well to just cut out some mids here. Probably here, really. Yeah, that's pretty good. And let's just turn this one down slightly. And let's hear it with our beat, because we still don't really know if it's going to work. It works. The other thing we're going to do firstly, I'm going to just duplicate this really quick, drag it over here. I'm going to delete this track, and clip, and then I'm going to group these together. Call it ambient bed. And that's just our ambient bed now. But what I want to do is I want to sidechain this, right? And so I could just sidechain it off the beat, but that's not really going to work because the beat has a lot of information in it, like a lot of audio information. So what we need to do is kind of like emulate the beat. Let's bring in a drum rack is basically what I'm saying. And I do this a lot. I'll have like a parallel beat running. Sometimes you'll hear it, like I'll have it be part of the mix. Other times it'll just be there for sidechain. So we'll just find some samples like a kick. You know, it doesn't even need to be a kick. It can just be a noise hit, and that will be completely fine. So why don't I do this instead and just, where is it? Analog. Let's just bring an analog in. Put noise on. Let's just go to our amp. Oh, where are we? And it's pretty quiet. Let's change the color. All right, so we've got that, and now let's create a clip and play it with our beat, and let's get the rhythm. Now you might be asking why I'm doing it on the snares as well. Sometimes I just like to do that. Maybe here I'll just get rid of them and we'll just do it on the kicks. Let's just try it like that. And let's bring a compressor in here. So you can use a whole bunch of compressors for this. I usually just like to use Ableton's default compressor because it doesn't really add any coloration, doesn't change the volume. I do like using Pro C2 sometimes as well, but Pro C2 affects the volume of the sound pretty significantly. Sometimes you just don't want that. And compressor from Ableton is just extremely straightforward, and you know, I like to use it. So let's go to, where are we? Drum rack. In fact, I'm going to rename this sidechain source. Apologies for my clickety-clack keyboard. It's, you know, it's one of those. Yeah, and so now we'll go back to our bed. Let's just bring the gain up. Yeah. Let's bring the attack down a bit. Put the attack up a bit. So you can hear what it's doing. Let's hear it in conjunction with our beat though. Cool. So we've got a nice ambient bed, got a nice beat. I realized that a lot of what I've done so far is just to make things sound nice, rather than creatively do anything with the sounds. I've kind of took that beat wholesale just because it's just a great beat and I don't want to change it. Like it's very reminiscent of kind of like Boards of Canada, bit of DJ Shadow maybe. Maybe a little bit of Air as well in there. Three of my favorite artists of all time. So, you know, I'm just going to go with that beat. And how is it really any different? Like, I feel like I get a little bit defensive sometimes internally when I make the AI stuff, and then I'm just like, well, I have to do more with it. I can't just use it as it is, because then I'm like cheating somehow. But I think in this case, or just in any case, really, why shouldn't I be able to use it? I've got like massive sample libraries of loops and stuff, which I occasionally delve into and use. So what's the difference, really? I guess there's an ethical difference in the sense that like those loops were made by somebody and then licensed by them, and then they were paid for and everything. Although I'm pretty sure most people have a lot of samples in their library that they never paid for. So, whatever. Anyway, I've got my sidechain source. I'm just going to get rid of it because I don't want noise hits, but it serves its purpose in this case. So the question now is, what else can we do? And we've got these sounds over here. Our ambient bed. Let's get rid of all of this shit. And what I'm going to do is let's bring up a new track, a MIDI track. Let's bring in a drum rack again. Drum racks aren't just useful for drums. You can do a lot of cool stuff with them. So what I'm going to do is bring this whole sample in. And I'm going to chop sections out of it. Something like that. Let's do a bit of a fade out. Solo it. So we could just use this kind of, in fact, I will do it this way because it's more sort of maybe creatively interesting. I'm going to copy these across, and we're going to, that's annoying. Kind of wish that would just move it with it, but that's all right. Let's bring this over here. Might be good to find a zero crossing, like there. It's better, but whatever. And this third one, let's bring this over here. Let's go right in. A little bit more difficult to see on this one, probably about there. Let's increase the length of this one a bit. So they're all the same. They're all the same note, but we can tune them, of course. And what we're also going to do is go over here to our atmospheric bed. What did we tune it to? -8. So firstly, I'll do that with our first one. So it's on -8. Where's our tuning? Transpose. -8. And let's tune this one to something else. Annoyingly, there's kind of like, these are chords, really. So it might not work how I want it. There is another thing we could do with this, which could be interesting. And I'll just bring it up for testing, I suppose. Let's bring in a simpler. There are other things we can do, which we should explore in a second, actually, because it'll be much more fun. But let's bring this in really quick. Let's go to about there. Let's find our zero crossing. And let's just bring that to like there. And I'll just solo it again. Almost sounds like a steel drum. All right, I don't love that, but what we're going to do instead of that is let's bring in another plugin that I really like. Let's go up to synths here. Let's bring in Pigments. Pigments has a really amazing granular engine in it. That's a very large window. We don't need it to be that big. Probably don't even need it to be that big. 80%, is probably fine. So what we're going to do here is we're going to go to our engines and we're going to do sample and we're going to turn on granular. And I'm just going to bring this in. Oh, that didn't work. Oh, it did work. Okay. So now, if I solo my pigments, let's maybe change where our starting point. Can we change? Let's change our starting point to here. So changing these knobs kind of adds randomization to these parameters. So scan changes where it scans through, start randomizes where it starts from. So what we are also going to do is, I think I want it to go forwards and backwards. We can just keep it in the middle, and that way it doesn't go anywhere. It just kind of hovers around wherever. Which is pretty cool. Let's go to our amp envelope. All right, we're on sustain. Let's bring up the attack a fair bit and the release. So what we're going to do is change this filter. Don't love that. Probably just want a low pass or a high pass, really. I'll get a lo-fi filter. I don't know if I'd call that a filter. It's a sample rate reduction, but that's fine. We got these classic filters. Let's go with a classic on the matrix. High pass 12. Just to cut out some of that. And what we might do as well Let's just chuck that on there. Now, let's bring in some effects. Oh, yeah. Almost forgot how it works. So we're going to definitely want some reverb, but before we do that, why don't we bring in maybe like a Juno 6 chorus. Perhaps a bit crusher. Now I'm going to use, it's random. Now I want you to not be stepping. So we get a little bit of variety there. Just decrease the dry wet. And let's add a shimmer. Let's add another reverb. All right, that's pretty interesting. I think we need another filter. This time, maybe let's use a matrix again, but let's use the low pass. Actually quite like that. What could be cool though is to modulate this. So let's get another random here and let's modulate it. And let's change our rate. We don't need that much of it. Now I know that this knob here kind of randomizes it as well, but I don't know, it wasn't. I hope we can do both. I gotta just get rid of that. Yeah, so we're in a pretty good spot, I think. It's very lush and kind of crunchy at the same time. And what this might be useful for is just sort of some background sparkliness. So let's bring in our ambient bed. Find just try that for a second. Perhaps from here. Or here. Should probably quantize these a little bit. Actually, maybe not. I'm also going to add another reverb to this, spark verb. Let's just increase the mix so I can hear it properly. Love that. All right, I think I do need to quantize this. Let's just pull that over a little bit and let's just do that. Maybe like that. Love that. Love how that turned out. Now, what if we brought in a vocal element? And what if that vocal element was AI generated? So I have, let me just bring some stuff up. So there were some prompts I got yesterday. If you watch, I made a video sort of showcasing some of the prompts that I made, but I got these just testing things out with a voice generator. I got these, and this is what I typed in for it to say.
Are there any AI music generators that don't suck?
That's pretty, I don't really want to use that as like,
what kinds of things would an AI say?
I don't necessarily want to use them as they are as a like some sort of lame statement. That was just a test to see how they sounded, and that was the first thing that came into my mind to write. However, we could bring these in. Which one's better for this?
What kinds of things? Are there any AI?
Probably this one, because it's got a little bit more transient sort of stuff in it. And if I, again, bring in a simpler, can I just move this to a simpler? No. I have to bring one in. And let's just drag it in here. And then let's slice it. I love slicing things. And now what we have is like... Right, so starting from that note, I think I did something similar to this in the last like video that I did about using the AIs. Just going to see how much recording I've done. Right, we'll probably have to end this video soon. It's getting a little bit long. Also, just worth checking how much hard drive space I have. Where are we at? All right, so we're running out. That's all right. Let's do this one last thing, and then I'll stop the video. So what I want to do is, where are we here? I'm going to bring in a clip. There we go. And let's just bring that out. And let's see where our final note is.
Don't suck.
There. Go back to our clip. Drag that out. And now I'm just going to copy this. Just pretty annoying, but that's all right. All right, now let's bring in a arpeggiator. In fact, let's use one of the Max for Live ones, which I often like to use. Probability up? No, it's this one, I think. Max for Live plugins always take a little bit longer to load, especially if you haven't loaded one yet in the session. Come on, mate. My computer is no slouch. You should be able to do this quickly. All right, cool. I actually kind of prefer this one. Let's just bring that in. Now we have to, yeah, okay, that's better. It didn't take it quite as long. And I want to do it on... The reason why I brought this up is because we've got these gates that we can adjust. Let's just see how this sounds. So we want it on style, up and down, converge. Where's random? Do we have a random? Don't tell me we don't have a random. All right, well, fuck that. Let's just use Old Faithful. Oh, come on, man. Just, why does Ableton do that? Sometimes I'm just so confused by why it does some things. All right. All right. I like where this is going, but I think that that's going to do it for this video. Because I'm going to run out of hard drive space. That's what I get for recording in OBS at 4K, 60 frames a second. I love this. This is cool. I like this. What if I just for... Yeah. This is cool. Okay. Thanks for joining me today on this little journey, making this track. Obviously, it's not arranged or anything, but I think it's sounding pretty cool. I'm pretty stoked with where it's at, and I'm excited to keep working on it. And that's really tick, you know. So anyway, check out my other videos. I have various running series at the moment. Hopefully I can keep them going. I'm getting pretty busy. But Patchwork with Miles is my VCV series. Making Beats is my machine drum video series, which I'm working on at the moment. And of course, I'm doing this PhD stuff as well, so you can check that out. Check the link in the description below for my Substack. I'll probably leave some links to maybe some other things in there as well. But thanks for joining me today, and I'll see you next time. Bye.